Yeah, I got the plan, I got the fan, I got the keys, I get the work. I am the man, you know what I'm saying, so leave it to me, cause I get it first. Yeah, whew, I've been going all day, man. Same plan, can't around, whole squad sitting back, chilling in the Maybach. Yeah, only as deep as your roots go. I don't do corny like fructose. If you got the drummer, that's word to my mama. I'll cover you up like a tombstone. I was fast in my past, now you see I'm the one. They say work, never work. If you work and it's fun, we on the winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We can do, ayy, we coming up from the dirt, ayy. They tryna get us to fall, ayy. I don't even gotta flex now, boy. It's only win by default, ayy. Taking off with the ring, ain't nothing left, man. We the kings, ran with the team, ran with the dream, ran with the one fan in the seats, ayy. I pay my dues, check the receipt. Looking at you, you already peaked. Way back then. You can't follow with my tracks, man. I was fast in my past, now you see I'm the one. They say work, never work. If you work and it's fun, we on the winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team. On top where you find us, we can do anything. Non-stop till our time's up.
The playoffs continue with one round down and a reunion in one place. The place where it all began, now playing a factor into how it will all close. Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the opening race in the round of 7 for season 3 of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series playoffs from the virtual Daytona International Speedway, as we bring you live coverage right here on the KBueno Racing Network. Happy to have you join us as we step closer to deciding a champion with 7 drivers left. We're alongside Charlie Baier up atop the World Center of Racing. My name is Kenneth Bueno. Charlie, we looked to last week as a departure of 3 drivers in their championship hopes to cut us down to a group we have now in this final round, starting with this race tonight, which will be the most crucial round of them all.
It's the World Center of Racing, and it offers nothing but excitement to these drivers. And in racing in general, we saw it earlier this season, a super speedway race once again at Talladega a little bit later. We're seeing it for the 3rd time and the final time in the 2nd round of the playoffs. So it's a good opportunity for a lot of the guys to grab some points and make their strides up to try to make a challenge for the Final Four. A lot of cars this week, so that'll offer a bit more points as compared to the last couple rounds, where we've only seen about 10, 12, 13 cars per race. We're seeing about 20 here tonight. So a lot of big moves tonight, a lot of new names in the field as well. It's going to be a good one.
Lots of points to gain, lots of points to lose, and this round of 7 means only 7 drivers are left to compete for an iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series title, and here is the rest of this field going into tonight. Had our 3 eliminations in Brady Wallerman, Jonathan Jones, and Wiley Marabella, which leaves us down to the 7 that are left, starting with Aiden Kirker, who locked in with his win at the Charlotte Roval, then Cole Williams, who won in over last week at the Monster Mile, then Blaze McKinney, Parker White, Shaney Mantova, Nick Miller, and Glenn Bundren, league owner, the final 7 drivers. And this round, Charlie, is crucial. This is the round that leads you to the home stretch, the Homestead Miami Speedway, to fight for a title, and 3 distinct rounds to bring us into it. Daytona here tonight, Auto Club at a super speedway next week, and Bristol, the short track, to cap it all off. What is going to be needed in this round compared to what we saw in the round of 10? What needs to amp up in order to bring yourself as a driver to a title hope and possibly to the run to Homestead Miami Speedway?
Well, you mentioned that it's going to be the most crucial round, but in all honesty, it's going to be the biggest toss-up round we see. We're starting off the round at Daytona. That's a good opportunity for a lot of guys kind of in the back to run up front and get some points, especially with the aspect of survival, as we see, and we'll see that aspect of survival in the last race of the round, which is at Bristol. So it's only going to get more intense, and it's once again just going to be a huge opportunity. But I think really the biggest aspect that goes into this is going to be running up front and staying out of trouble, and we're going to see that multiple times throughout tonight's race, throughout next week's race, Auto, another draft-dependent track, and Bristol, which is a very tight racetrack for these guys to go to. So we're going to see a lot of that tonight.
And of course, you're looking over the Daytona International Speedway, our second time being here in this season. And just quickly before we get to the starting grid, it'll be our time to take a look at where we are in the virtual world with our reference and our KBRN Track Map with images provided by Google Earth. Obviously, no real introduction needed for Daytona International Speedway. Over 60 years of NASCAR competition, 2.5 miles located in Daytona Beach, Florida, opened all the way in 1959 of 31 degrees over in each turn, with about 2 degrees in the back straightaway and 18 degrees in the tri-oval. And now as the field will start to head its way down to pit road, it is our time to take a look at your starting grid, see exactly where every driver, every playoff driver, and your favorite driver will be lining up here tonight from the World Center of Racing. On pole again will be the number 95 of Parker White, still looking for that playoff win. He'll start with a 47.869, the fastest of them all. Will be the first to lead this to the green flag, right alongside good fellow friend and next level racing driver Brady Wallerman in the 51 to follow in row number 1.
Right behind them, the number 36 of Aiden B. Murray will start on the inside of row number 2. To his outside, Aiden Kirker, points leader coming into this round, in the number 39. He'll start 4th.
Starting in the row behind them, league owner Glenn Bundren, playoff driver, and Jonathan T. Jones, still trying to muster off a good season nonetheless for the number 4 machine. They'll line up 5th and 6th in row number 3.
And row number 4, Brody Garner, he will start in the 7th position and row number 4. To his outside, Cole Williams, looking for a win tonight to put himself above the cut line. He starts in the 8th position. That'll run at row number 4.
The rest of row number 5 will show. Got a bunch of drivers in this field. Guys like Paul Granada, Aiden Murray making their way back in this series. PJ Merrill also making a return. JJ Hill finding his way back into the series after once being over at the Talladega Super Speedway. Mitch Hobbs is back. Bridger Olson trying to defend his Daytona title after winning in the first race of the season at the 200. Aiden Kirker, obviously. Sartaj Mon back in after his win at Las Vegas. And one thing to know here, Charlie, Blaze McKinney in the 87, he received a penalty after last week's competition at Dover. He's going to be starting all the way at the rear of the field as a result. So now it's going to be even more of work for Blaze McKinney to try and climb up that ladder in order to give some well-needed points. And this is something kind of an oddball here, Charlie, because there's a lot more drivers here than what we saw at Dover. We kind of saw shorter of drivers, pretty much only the playoff drivers running in competition at Dover. Now we have a bunch of new drivers to play in and a lot more points to play with, which can be very beneficial or very dangerous on either end.
Yeah, and more drivers does mean more points, but like you said, it could end up in some danger with a lot of those guys kind of being in here for the first time since at least, one of these cars, people like JJ Hill haven't made a start earlier this season, and same with, a lot of these guys that are kind of showing up for these play races, just like Josh Patterson, those guys as well. So Paul Granada included. So that's going to be a factor coming in tonight, but we're about to take the green flag.
So it'll be Parker White and Brady Wileman, two Toyota Camrys, to lead us to the green flag, and we are under green and going from the Daytona International Speedway to kick off the round of 7. Easy 1-2, door to door between White and Wileman. They're going to have to push from the 39 up top. There they go into the 31-degree banking.
With the help of the 39 elevating Kirker, it looks like Brady Wileman does have a bit of a nose out front. Will he take this line down low? He will not. He's going to conserve that. Jonathan D. Jones up the middle takes the line away from Aiden Kirker in turn, and you're going to see throughout the night that the high line is going to prevail, at least down the straightaways, down the front straightaway and the back straightaway. And if you can just barely get clear, I can tell you that a lot of these guys are going to take every inch they can get.
White leading lap number 1 with Aiden Murray to follow right behind him. That outside lane pretty much organized at about 4 to 5 cars, but they've lagged behind the rest of these guys to the bottom. That's what we're going to see all night here, Charlie, where that inside is really going to have the most momentum, being the shortest way around the venue, all the way tucked in to the double yellow line. There's, I believe that's PJ Merrill a little bit trying to tuck in a little bit further behind, doesn't want any drama with this, but so far Parker White leading about a 4-car train into turn 3.
We saw him lead a bunch of laps in the Clash earlier this season to kick off the season, and in the Daytona season opener, obviously won the pole for that as well. So it's going to be the Parker White show with a couple guys in the field, including A&B Murray and Brady Wileman, that are going to help him throughout the night. But one pair that we're going to watch throughout the night is that 55 and the 49, Brody Garner and Tartaj Matt, already making charge for the front 3 wide for the second place position.
They do not want to work with Aiden Murray down in the middle, so they'll work all the way to the outside barrier. The two proximity teammates going to have each other up top, going to give their pushes. Remember, mentioned Sartaj a little bit earlier in the show. He was the winner at Las Vegas a couple weeks back. Brody Garner, the winner at Darlington earlier this season, and has been so close at the super speedways countless of times. When you look back at the 200 earlier this season, Talladega earlier this season, he's been trying to work over for that first super speedway win. He's tucked in a bigger group though, as here's Aiden Murray with help from the 24 Preston Cope.
He was able to find that help, but that line that Sartaj and Brody Garner tried to make up and try to slip right around him kind of died out there, and that allows Josh Patterson to help. And Josh Patterson, another name that we're going to be talking about throughout the night, one of those guys who kind of shows up at the super speedways and performs with his Nova Sim Racing teammate of Paul Granada just 2 spots behind him.
You're riding on board with the 041 of Josh Patterson. Already seen him a couple of times in the series. He's given a big shove to Aiden Murray to push him ahead of the rest of the field. Murray will look down, and Murray is your new race leader going into turn 3. That'll leave Brody Garner all by himself, and obviously we're looking at some of the organization here, Charlie. I think we're seeing a lot more aggressivity somewhat up front between some drivers, looking at Mon, looking at Garner, looking at guys like Aiden Murray being up here through this field. And how about a look at those playoff drivers? Look at Parker White, Blaze McKinney from the back of the field. He's already third on the inside as Preston Cope will look to the top. He'll have help from the Chevrolet Camaro.
And really the high line is kind of reserved for those guys who want to be aggressive and who want to make those moves, because it takes a little bit of coordination to push one of those guys out front. And if you think you're the one that should be next to get up on the high line, try to take the lead, you can just hop up there right in front of them, and they have no other choice but to push you. But like we saw earlier, you can be like Brody Garner and Sartaj Van, jump to the 3rd line and try to get around it, but sometimes that doesn't work, like we said.
And now there's going to be about 4 cars up to the top to complete lap number 5. It is door-to-door even. I think Preston Cope might have had that lap, and indeed he does be the first one across the start-finish line. Look at Brody Garner going to be looking for that 3rd line. He's going to have no help, though, so he might be sucked all the way in the back, and that's something we have to look at when we go to a track like this, Charlie. And I think every time we visit the super speedways, and we've talked about it, I think a countless amount of times, where you're looking at a lot of drivers who either know each other because they're either teammates or they've been friends with each other. As there's an aggressive move, Blaze McKinney to the top of the track, trying to make a move and lead that outside lane. But picking and choosing the people you want to work with, that is going to be the key to be a contender here at these super speedways, where you have either friends, teammates, or people you're in communication with, people you can trust to push you to the front of the field.
One of the advantages of being on the iRacing service is, instead of using your spotter like you would in real life to communicate with the drivers, you can just do it straight over voice chat. And a lot of guys utilize services such as Discord, Skype, etc. And that's allowing them to coordinate with each other. And 2 guys who are working with each other, in the same voice call right now. That's Blaze McKinney and Preston Cope. Preston Cope making his first start in quite a while, but doing well for himself up in the second position.
Yeah, I believe the last time we saw Preston Cope in iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series competition was over at Talladega, the last race he competed in when he was trying to fill in and make himself known within the series, but unfortunately had a rough ending to that event. Obviously crashing down at the final lap, coming to the checkered flag, and now he hasn't been showing up in Bundren Lawn Care Series racing ever since, but good to see him back as he's leading, as Mitch Hobbs might have tagged the outside wall. I'm not sure what might have happened to him. Luckily, he stays out of danger. Everyone's able to scour away, but a rough momentum moment almost could have been disastrous for the 89.
Right side damage to his car, and looking like he's going to lose the draft. He got passed really quickly by Cole Williams and Riley Maribel, and the next car behind him is Nick Miller all the way back to turn number 4, so not looking good for Mitch Hobbs early on.
Take a look at where he was. He was looking at third line, I think, actually just trying to stay away, maybe get out of the draft there, and he caught a piece of that safer barrier when it starts over at the middle of the tri-oval there, and it seems he's going to be all the way by himself in 18th, losing the draft. And one driver also losing the draft, Nick Miller, who I believe started all the way in the rear end of this field. He's 19th right now, all by himself. That's not going to spell well for him near the end of this race, but as of lap number 9 of 70 so far into turn 1, Blaze McKinney still door-to-door with fellow friend Preston Cope.
Outside line is getting a lot of more cars, and even if the car's on the inside line, or maybe have a little bit less, that's still going to be enough down the straightaway. I'm going to have that momentum to make that charge. Looks like Aiden B. Murray going to slip under the apron, slip to the back. That's going to allow Preston Cook to take the lead, but Brody Garner is the next one up to challenge.
And Garner going to be the one up top, going to try to use that outside lane to his usage at least, as you're riding on board with PJ Merrill, going to be smothered by the 4 of Jonathan T. Jones, who actually received a new ride within the past couple of weeks. You could tell a new manufacturer and a new sponsor, Coca-Cola rather, on the sponsor there, right on the front, on the sides, all over the racetrack with red and chrome bumpers all over the race cars. He's going to shuffle PJ Merrill out of the way in that second line and running to the Chevrolet side instead of using the Ford Mustang. So now he's going to be running new colors. And Blaze McKinney, if you notice him, he's not running white, blue, and black on the racetrack. He's running white and red, a new affiliate with Rowdy, and Rowdy Energy Drink has pushed him with a new car and a brand new look going into the playoffs this round. You see him trying to make contact. There he goes with Preston Cope. They both go around. McKinney tried to dig the nose in to get around the 24 to give a fake, but it was not enough. The 24 got the edge of the bumper, and now they're both around at the tri-oval. No yellow, though. We stay green.
Not sure if that was the right move early on, especially you're kind of toying with a playoff driver there of that 87 car, but an aggressive move does come with aggressive consequences. These guys are going to lose the draft, and later on probably go a lap down if this does stay green.
Take a look at that move with a crossover. Just tried to fake to the outside and then go back to the bottom to dig his nose in and get the inside. You see Preston Cope follows up the banking, but then the 87 looks for the space down low. Preston tries to block, and then they both make contact. And that was disastrous for both of them. Luckily, they're still together, so they can hang in the draft. However, they're all the way at the tail end, but it is tension-filled up the top of the field. Jonathan Jones has found help. He's going to have a push from the NOS Energy Toyota Camry of J.J. Hill, side by side with Brody Garner into turn 1.
We'll see if that outside line can work, but it all depends on if the car behind you can keep kind of a steady line and the car in front. It really requires that dynamic of, being able to hold that straight line. And a lot of guys, will complain about the night through other guys not being able to accomplish that. So it's definitely a big thing and kind of a determining factor to get that line working.
And that's going to be very big as you see it in Kirker, and more contact there up the track. Hill hard into the outside wall. Caution flag waves at lap 12. Aiden Kirker involved. Jonathan Jones with the contact as the 54 was over the track. Glenn Bundren is in it. You see Cole Williams digging to the bottom to get away from the mess. And our first yellow is kicked off at lap number 13 with a huge wreck up the top of the racetrack coming off turn 4. We'll take a look.
What's happening? It looks like the 54. We're going to see what happens in turn number 3. I think it might have just been running out of real estate there, and super speedway comes down to the inches. You guys are racing, these guys are racing inches apart from each other. Get a contact there, sends him up and over.
there was a contact between the 54 and the 51. That's over in turn 3. You see the 54 going down the track. There's the contact with the 51. Sends it into the 4. Then the 4 overcorrects down into the 54. Aiden Kirker, though, gets heavy damage from that one. You could see from his view a little bit further back. You see them just right in front of him up the track. He had nowhere to go. As there's Sartaj Mon barely getting away from it. And Glenn Bundren also accruing some damage from it as well. I believe maybe from J.J. Hill sliding up the track. And indeed, there it is, as he was just hard on the brakes, trying to make sure he didn't get into the incident. And now he's involved. As we're under our first caution of the night, and that results in a lot of pit stops over on pit road. Brody Garner will take the field down as everyone will get service.
Bit of damage to, I believe, the right side of, I believe that's Brady Wheelerman's car, and he did get eliminated last round, and we just got word that Glenn Bundren may have just blown his engine.
You see Glenn Bundren there down at pit road. He's stuck all the way down there. What would be a severe hit to the driver, the 37, if he has an engine issue. As everybody heads out pit road, Parker White will be the first one to lead us out, with PJ Merrill alongside to follow suit. Aiden Murray in the 72 with Cole Williams behind them. Riley Marabello. They were working together near the rear of the field prior to this incident, so they were all clear from this as well. There's Preston Cope with damage fixed. Blaze McKinney out as well. Brady Weileman. At least very good news for the drivers that got situated back early, especially with the likes of McKinney, with Preston Cope, maybe guys like Nick Miller, where they got pretty much mired near the rear of the field, and now they're going to have a chance to coup back up and get everything back underway on their part. As Glenn Bundren is still down at pit road, and that might be a night over for him. As he's stuck down pit road, Aiden Kirker has taken it to the garage along with Jonathan Jones, J.J. Hill. He's stuck down pit road. I believe he's going to be there for a while with that significant amount of damage. And now they're going to lap him here for lap 15. Well, Charlie, we saw a good amount of aggressive racing through our first step of this event. And now we're at a very interesting situation here where the key was to get out of trouble. And that's the thing about driving here at Daytona and the super speedways, Daytona, Talladega, how dangerous it could be if you get in the wrong place at the wrong time. And for guys like Bundren and for Kirker, it could be a very steep hill to climb when we get out of Daytona.
Yeah, you talk about being at the wrong place at the wrong time, and Daytona and all these plate tracks and really any car is almost kind of like a high risk, high reward situation. You can put yourself up front, but you also have that possibility of those aggressive guys, getting up there and making contact with each other, and that's just a prime example of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's taken a lot of people out in the past. So, it's definitely a big representative of just the dynamic of plate racing in general.
So we'll reset the field as follows. Parker White will be your race leader to the inside. The pole sitter still maintaining the race lead with PJ Merrill to his outside in second. Preston Cope will be sitting in the third spot. Aiden Murray will be over in the fourth spot, or I believe actually flip-flop this time. Preston Cope will be fourth, and Aiden Murray will be third. Brady Weileman will line up the top 5. Blaze McKinney behind him. Sartaj Mon, Nick Miller the row behind with Brody Garner and Mitch Hobbs. Finally, with some damage fixed after that, incident to the outside wall. Riley Marabello, Paul Granada, Cole Williams, and Bridger Olson, the final drivers into this field at about, say, 15 drivers with the amount that were taken out in that incident on lap 13 to put us under our first caution flag of the evening. We'll find out what happens from here on out. Pace car going to make its left to the safety of pit road. The Camry of White and the Mustang of Merrill will lead us back to the green flag.
Still very aggressive moves from the 49 and the number 55 of Sartaj Man and Brody Garner, trying to use that third line already to get as much help as they can, but now they got other couple friends there. That's Nick Miller in the 9 car as well. Another good friend of them, also Mitch Hobbs there to help.
They've got 3 lines up at the top. Mon looking for that 3rd line. Cope and McKinney working together for that 2nd one. They're going to be door-to-door with Parker White going into the 31-degree banking in turn 3. They'll stay situated, and the 49 will lead them back to the outside. So now it's about 5 cars to follow to defend over the top. The 72 squiggly off the corner is going to be door-to-door, even there to lap number 16.
Big wiggle, but a big save by the 61 of PJ Merrill. Still holds suit in pushing that number 95, but President Cope did lead that lap next time. I believe he's just barely a nose ahead. You can squeeze down if he needs to, but not yet. He's going to wait till the back straightaway and use that momentum.
He's going to have the push to help coming off for the banking. There's a little bit of contact there. PJ Merrill and Aiden Murray deciding to get out of this early, so now almost no help virtually for Parker White other than Brady Weileman to the bottom, and here will allow the 2 Chevrolets of McKinney and Cope to take over the lead. Going to take over 1st and 2nd. Mon and Garner still trying to work together over to the outside, and one thing here that we saw, Charlie, over in, I think, every single super speedway race for the most part, we saw pitch strategy come into play at a long green flag run. Obviously not able to see that so far here tonight with about 13 laps wrapped under the green flag before our first caution of the evening, but we're probably looking at some sort of strategy if we stretch ourselves into the longer fronts, which I'm not sure we'll be able to see so far with the amount of aggressivity up front as they're side by side, then the back straight.
Dead even, but the run is up top. Sartor's mind clear. New race leader out front. He's going to lead some laps, but outside line is just not done yet as Nick Miller is going to try and help, and those group of friends are trying to dominate both lines this race, and that's really a key strategy in ensuring your win. We saw that in the Bundren Lawn Care Series Season 2 Daytona opener where Vag Esports controlled pretty much the entirety of that race and held the top 2 lines coming to the white flag, and they were able to take a win. Big shuffle on the bottom there.
On a big shuffle by the 24 of Cope, almost sent him into the race leader of Mon, and almost could have upsetted that entire inside groove, but luckily they keep it straight. It's just about keeping themselves on the apron as the 87 had a look to the back bumper, and he got himself squiggly as well, but he was able to save the race car, and it is getting dicey up here near the front. Now Garner has the push from Nick Miller, Parker White, and Brady Weileman have joined the fray up to the top side and give themselves another campaign to work themselves to the point, but so far, Sartaj Mon, the winner at Las Vegas, going to lead them back to green flag as Preston Cope will look to the top.
It's the field against the apron right now, and despite being the shortest way around the racetrack, if you just barely touch that, it's going to wiggle you up and possibly shoot you up a lane, and that's definitely not what you not want to see. But Preston Cope to the high side with help from the 50 rider Brody Garner. Blaze McKinney to help the bottom side, leader of Sartaj Mon.
There's a look from Preston Cope all over the back bumper, and then looking ahead, all but the sunset in the horizon as he's getting the big shove from the 2 Chevrolets behind. Parker White might have been a little bit squirrely up to the top as he's able to kind of swerve the car just a little bit. They're going to maintain even in a 3 and 4, which could give the run for Cope off of the banking and give himself a run. Now Garner is going to look with Nick Miller. He's going to ditch him into the sucker hole, 3 wide for second.
They're going to bail him out, and he's going to fall all the way back. An amazing move by those 2 cars to just flush him out so they can focus on controlling the line that they think is theirs. But I don't think Parker White can just get a nose ahead of him and slide down. No, he's going to fall back and probably slide right in behind them. So now it's the group of those 3 guys dominating both lines once again.
And now they're going to have their run. They're going to try to form something up to the top. Now Parker White might have enough leeway to give himself room to that second lane, so he will. And the Nova Sim Racing driver of Josh Patterson, who we really haven't seen much of tonight, he's looking to the inside, and then fellow Nova Sim Racing driver Paul Granata going to try and gang up with about 8 cars here in the top 8 running for the race seat as Garner will get the nose out front. They'll be side by side still to the start finish line, undetermined as to who that will be, and another 2-car 10 will bring us up to the top. Cope and White going to make a 3rd line, 3 wide for the lead.
2 rows of 3 wide racing here, and typically you'd see this in a lot larger of a pack, but these guys don't care. They're making it work with just 6 cars in one pack despite having that shortage. But this is allowing, if you look back here, a lot of these guys, you'll see them with that damage kind of take a more conservative approach. You see the Media Racing drivers of Cole Williams, Bridger Olsen, and Riley Marabello kind of taking a chance and trying to save their cars to save it to the end.
You're on board Marabella. You can see just how far the distance is between himself, his teammate, Cole Williams, and just everybody up front, which is basically pretty much being all aggressive to the top, as Garner again will lead the high side. He'll have the push from Preston Cope to clear himself to turn 1 and still be edging with the 49 on for the race lead. But also something here to note, Charlie, I mean, you're aggressively racing very early. I know a lot of these drivers don't have a case for the playoffs. I mean, guys like Sartaj still winning races, although they're not running for a title. Brody Garner also falls in that conversation. Looking at Brady Weileman, who got eliminated, he can now try to run for those wins as well. Preston Cope, not a playoff driver. Mitch Hobbs, not a playoff driver. PJ Merrill. So many drivers that don't have an effect into the playoffs are not running for a championship, but are running for wins, and they want to be aggressive. But it's such a complicated scenario because they do not want to put any of the playoff drivers in trouble. But it's about how aggressive are you willing to be, as Preston Cope will shuffle Nick Miller out of the way in the second line.
I think there's definitely that level of consideration that these guys have to kind of take into account. And, you know, while you want to race, this is such an easy track to get up there and race up for the front, and how tempting it is. Still got to have a little bit of consideration as you see these guys just trying to give these guys a lot more room, knowing that these guys are racing for very, very valuable points here. But might I mention that, you know, in the battle for the cutoff line, Shane DiMantova is the first car above the cut line, 5 points ahead of Nick Miller. But he was not able to make the race tonight, so that's going to allow Nick Miller, if he finishes where he is, he's going to take over that cutoff spot. But Cole Williams is still 5 points behind Nick Miller, so with this plate track dynamic, he could get ahead of him just by 5 spots and take that away from him.
And this also comes to question here, Charlie, because you look at where Cole Williams is right now. I mean, he's a playoff driver. He's in that situation in the point standings, and he's right now at a situation where he's losing points to the fellow playoff drivers behind him, because he is really the lowest playoff driver that is still in this race, still competing on the racetrack. Obviously, guys like Glenn Bundren, who's stuck down pit road with engine issues. Drivers like Jonathan Jones, who was just taken out in that lap 13 wreck. He's going to gain some points. However, he's going to be losing some to the drivers up atop of him, and that may not put him in a good situation going for the rest of the races forward. So you have to kind of keep that in mind, because let's say these drivers are aggressive, but they keep it clean, they don't wreck, they make it to the end of this race, then that leaves Cole Williams in a predicament where he was trying to be conservative, he was trying to stay out of trouble, but the trouble was never there. So then he's going to be stuck to the rear of the field with absolutely nowhere to go. But that's obviously a big question mark when we move to the rest of this race. And speaking of this race so far, as they're toggling for position in the race lead, as they're still 3 wide with Garner up top. I want to give a shout out to Blue Jimmy 48 fan, who's down in the YouTube chat tonight. Obviously a very potent run in the 2021 Podium 500 that took place just yesterday afternoon at about noon Eastern on Podium. That was a lot of fun to watch, and obviously watching Paunetto go from obviously the transfer races and get into the main event before finishing. We're very proud of what Brandon has been able to do, and a fellow Bundren Lawn Care Series competitor himself. So good to see him down supporting in the chat tonight.
Definitely one of the most exciting events that's put on every year in the iRacing service. It's such a big event, over 300 entries. They had to put a cap on the entries because there were so many people trying to get in on it, and it was such a great event that day.
But it is still tense up for the race lead. Preston Cope has been pretty much shuffling in every single line, experimenting everywhere across the racetrack, and it's led him to this point. He is still door to door with the likes of Parker White, with help from Brody Garner. But you can tell Garner does not want to go with him. They just spread across the racetrack. Everyone sliding through the grass. A handful of drivers down there trying to recoup themselves. McKinney being one of them, Sartaj Mon being one of them, but they keep it straight and we stay green.
Sartaj Mon loose on the apron. He's going to be able to gather it up. Lost a lot of speed to the cars behind him, and him and Blaze McKinney have dropped to the near tail end of this pack with that incident.
Well, that's going to be tough for them, but even more contact as Weileman got loose off of side-to-side contact. There's more. PJ Merrill, Preston Cope in it. They're swiveling all over the track. Will we get a yellow flag? They're wrecking underneath the racing line, and they keep it straight so far. So I believe we'll stay green. And now the caution comes out on lap 28. I believe there may have been more cars involved, but now we finally get the yellow flag. And what was already dicey up at the front became oh so dangerous. We'll take a look and see what happened.
Just a lot of aggressive moves on only lap 30 of 7. We're not even halfway through this race yet. See Bernie Garner just trying to get a nose under him. That will send Sartaj Mon and the 87 of Blaze McKinney through the grass, Bundren lawn care style. Back up the racetrack, lost a lot of time, but there's another incident down the back straightaway. It started with Brady Wheelerman getting shot below the apron.
You can see right here that we're getting the run off of turn 2. Brady Wheelerman was stuck to the inside. There was a move there by Brody Garner to kind of split the middle here, along with the 04 behind him. That's Paul Granada in the mix as they were getting the run. Garner tried to look for that space down the middle, and then Wheelerman, I'm not sure where he saw him, and kind of swiveled out of the way to make sure, but then going back up the track, PJ Merrill and Preston Cope going in contact with each other. You can tell from the 24's perspective right about here. Goes up the track with Merrill just trying to get back onto the racetrack as well. And then they get into contact. They're down to the inside grass. Doesn't seem to be too dangerous for the moment, but then they get back up, I believe, just the slow speeds. Also pushing some drivers out of it. And now we have our second yellow of the evening. But the good news here, Charlie, is that everyone won't have to worry about fuel conservation. Everyone's going to be down pit road, so everyone with service once again.
Getting a full load of fuel, and I mentioned the damage on Brady Wheelerman's car into the last round of pit stops. He's got even more now, so he doesn't have as much to worry about as last round because he did take that elimination into his hands. Cole Williams second on a pit road.
Williams with a brilliant pit stop. Going to be second behind White. He'll be on the outside lane when we go back green. Also another decent stop for Josh Patterson to put himself into the top 3. Miller Marabello also with a good pit stop to put him within the top 5. And everybody behind. There's Wildman getting damage fixed. McKinney's already out. Sartaj is already out. The guys like Aiden Murray stuck down pit road. There's Bridger Olsen. He'll gain some spots as well. So he'll also be the beneficiary this time around. And Wildman with some damage, he'll try to get it the best way he can fixed. But it may not be enough for him at the moment, as Garner is going to be stuck down pit road as well. There's Preston Cope finally out. PJ Merrill with damage. And now this will set a lot of drivers behind the 8 ball, especially within position. Lots of drivers who were aggressive up to the front, and that's somewhat of the key when you look at aggressive driving. I mean, you try your best. You try to be as aggressive as you can, but one miscommunication, one wrong move, and it could send a bunch of drivers into a downhill spiral. So Parker White will be your leader. It seems as though Williams will also look back down a pit road along with Josh Patterson. So I'm guessing a lot of these drivers looking to top off on fuel. Remember, it's about 40 laps to the end of this race. At about lap 70 when we get the checkered flag. I believe it different race from what we saw over at Daytona, as you see Patterson just barely missing his pit stop for the most part. It was about 200 miles when we got to the Bundren Lawn Care Series in the opening race. So it was about 80 laps or so before we kind of got to the end. Here it's a little bit shorter. Is the distance kind of more confusing on this end, because now it's sort of trying to make it to the end and kind of being at a different spot where the laps are a little bit shorter compared to what we saw over at Daytona in the opening round of Season 3.
That's definitely, the aggression between that race and this race has ramped up a lot, and we've seen that off and on in the racetrack so far. Quite literally off the racetrack in the trial when Blaze McKinney and Sartaj Man did a little lawn mowing down there. So I don't know. We're just gonna have to see how this one plays out. It's definitely a lot of opportunities for some of these guys to pick up points, but a lot of guys have been unlucky so far.
We'll just have to see. Just got the 1 to green signal, and Preston Cope has been let around the pace car. So I think we might have a very odd restart this time by as Parker White, Brady Wildman, Nick Miller, Riley Marabello, Sartaj Mon, everybody single file. So I'm not sure what the officials will decide on this one. Pretty much everybody trying to scramble themselves back up, and I'm not sure where Miller is placing his race car. And I'm on the outside here. Going to be slowing down, I believe, letting Parker White by. He's going to be fouled in his spot. Aiden Murray will join the fray as well. An auto restart here with about 2 rows filled in, but nonetheless, we'll get to the green flag. And again, on lap number 32 to start, right in the trial, White will lead us all down into turn 1.
51 to his bumper to help, and furthest up we've seen him all race is that number 92 of Riley Marabella, looking to dip into the aggression factor in his number 92 Ford Mustang, third in line on the bottom.
Well, now they've all got grouped up depending on that restart despite what they had. So now everybody's going to be all within each other down the back straightaway. Miller will have the help from Murray, Mon, and McKinney to follow suit in that second line. But Weileman holding strong with Marabello behind him. The three cars working off of turn 4. They're going to give Parker White the advantage at about the halfway mark.
Big push out front. 2 cars clear ahead of the top line. But Blaze McKinney, one of the more aggressive pushers in the field tonight, going up top to help. But I think it's kind of an off balance now as 2 guys now dip to the bottom.
And this will be interesting at this point because we have significantly less cars. And no matter, we saw a little bit of cars fighting for, I'd say, 3 wide, 2 rows deep. But still, we can still have some sort of aggressive racing as Marabello has had enough of the bottom. He's down with the checkups. He's going to be up to the top to couple with Nick Miller and Murray, who's now going to lose his ground. McKinney, defending champion, will work up to the top. So Marabello still looking aggressive after an early exit at Dover last week. He's got the big run out of turn 3 and 4 to be side by side with second place.
Boy, Riley has really switched the aggressive switch tonight. He went from neutral to aggressive tonight, trying to lead the outside line, trying to get a couple laps led after his elimination last week. A big push from Nick Miller. These guys working pretty well for each other. Blaze McKinney also to help on the high line. That'll make it a 3-car lane.
And this is the first time we see Marabello within this group in this aggressive sort of nature. Everybody else around him has already been within 3 wide, 2 wide, you name it. Brody Garner has been kind of the pioneer for that so far tonight, along with guys like McKinney, guys like Sartaj, maybe guys like Brady Weileman if you count them in. But here he comes, Marabello in his 92 Ford Mustang. He'll take the lead coming out of turn 4.
Leaning left, though. Big push from behind. Looks like that Ford Mustang is going to stay out in front and get his bonus point for leading lap. But Nick Miller may be the one to challenge with help from Blaze McKinney. 2 old teammates up on the high side. Actually, 3 old teammates in the first cars on the high side. These guys used to drive for Sim Performance Group. That's Nick Miller, Blaze McKinney, and Sarkaz Man all coupled as one up top there.
They're going to all work together. And remember, just last season, all 3 of them were repping the same brand. And you just mentioned it, they're a Sim Performance Group when they were all together. And guys like Aaron Mulrooney and a bunch of the drivers. Andy McDowell was also in that group. And we had saw Andy McDowell repping SPG when they were all on teams together. Remember, they had 2 teammates in the Final 4 last season, Miller and McKinney being both of them. And they were on still Sim Performance Group. And they were battling for the title over at Phoenix Raceway. But right now they're on different teams, but they're still working well together. There's 3 Chevrolet Camaros up top, but still have yet to find any sort of answer to Riley Marabello as they did back into turn 1.
I think the safest guy to have behind you is that number 95 of Parker White. I think that's really the safest option if you want to be behind him, because I think Parker has a lot of super speedway experience in managing his temperatures and being able to stay pushing while almost overheating his engine. So I think Riley Marabello's in a really, really good spot right now, unless his top line can kind of cool down and go for another push down the straightaway.
And you look at how well a lot of these drivers find themselves on the super speedways, Parker White being one of them. And we saw his performance over at Talladega just a couple of months back, where he had been quite possibly one of the more dominant drivers into the front of the field and one of the more controlling drivers, along with the 51 is Brody Garner had just gotten tagged near the middle of the field, but a miraculous save will keep him in it. He'll be straight. Everybody will scatter, and that'll cut down the main field to about 4 cars. Almost disastrous for the 55.
That was a save of all saves right there. And that's going to separate this top pack, like you said, to just 4 cars. We're already past we're 2 laps past the halfway point at this stage in the race. So it's kind of that point in the race where we pit with about 30 laps into this race. So a lot of these guys, I wonder if they're going to kind of go to a fuel saving strategy, because I'm not sure if these guys can make it to the end.
We'll just have to see. There's just about under 40 laps, almost about 30 laps until we get to the rest of this race. And we really haven't seen anybody stretch the fuel tank too much here, Charlie. We've only seen some splattered runs between about lap 13 and then 15 more laps to lap 28 before we had both of our yellow flags to splice everything up in the middle. I think that's what everybody is looking for at the moment, where they want to see that yellow flag come out at some stage of this race, because it'll give them the opportunity to kind of get themselves calmed down, get themselves relaxed, and be able to not worry about the fuel situation. But we saw, Charlie, just how much the race can change over the course of the event, because when you look at Talladega, I think that's a perfect reference of how the race can pretty much tip on its head. We saw a fuel strategy, clean race through the beginning at Talladega. Pretty much the first 2 stints were all clean. And then all of a sudden, you get to the last 40 or so laps in this race, and the race turns into a wreck fest. Everybody getting into contact, everybody trying to be aggressive, and you can tell just how much the intensity gets ramped up. But it is ramping up to the front. McKinney with a large shove by the 9 of Nick Miller will put him to the race lead in turn 3.
And that push finally paid off to him, the Chevy Camaro of Nick Miller. And a lot of these guys are saying over the voice chat that they are not good on fuel. They're going to one-stop this race to the end with about 16, 17 laps on their fuel tank. That's going to have them pit around the 56-lap mark, and that'll be the pit stop that gets them to the end under the condition that we stay under a green flag.
And so we probably will see pit strategy come into fray and decide how this race ends up. And it's more risky here, I'd say, Charlie, than anywhere else on any other venue in the service, because when you're going to a 1.5 miler, you can head down pit road, make that split. You can kind of gain that time back up, especially as fresh tires really make a big difference there in terms of the grip levels, where you're way faster on fresh tires as opposed to pretty much the drivers on the older sets of tires. But then you look at the super speedways, and it's all about draft. If you pit with the right people, if you pit within a pack, and you can leave pit road with a pack, you can give yourself a good shot to get back up to the front. But right now, you're only seeing it takes 2 to tango, and it's taking the Nova Sim Racing drivers of Patterson and Granada to the outside. They're going to charge door-to-door with the race lead.
2 more guys that we're going to see sticking around each other towards the end of this race. They flipped the aggressive switch as well. They're going to go for the race lead. A good group of cars up top helping each other. I think that's going to pay off for those top 2 guys.
And here comes the Camrys. 1 to the front, 1 to the outside. Now 1 to the bottom to help 2 of the Nova Sim Racing drivers up to the front. So we've already had a lead change within the last 7 or so laps between Marabello, McKinney, and now these 2 that occupy the top 2 spots. Given the place that Nick Miller is in now, he can try some sort of a move, or maybe Granada can try to get out with his teammate and try to control both lines. But right now, the teammates working all so well together. That's another thing you look at super speedways. You want to find your teammates where you can find them. If you can find your teammates, get hooked up with them, and you guys can maintain inseparable, you 2 will probably be the biggest threat to the racing lead and for the rest of the event. We saw it with the Space Station Gaming cars in the Podium 500, and right now, between the 2 Nova Sim Racing drivers, it's starting to work, albeit there's pressure from the outside of Nick Miller.
That's Nick Miller up the outside, PJ Merrill upside to help. Also, Aiden B. Murray, that 3rd car on the high line, could pay off for them as they carry this momentum all the way down into turn number 1. It's really crucial to get that push down the straightaway if you want to. And if you're not successful the first few times, that car behind you is going to have to back off and cool off his temperatures and pretty much make the outside line really mundane.
You can try, especially if you let off the throttle. That's really going to be one of the keys. We see it down to the inside where drivers, they don't want to push the pusher. They don't want to give a bad shove and then send one driver spinning across the track and involve multiple drivers in a large wreck. They don't want to do that. They want to stay consistent. They want to make sure they're able to give solid pushes with their bumpers without pretty much putting anyone at risk. And that's why the inside can be a little limp at times, where the outside, they won't really have that issue of checking up too much. So they're able to pretty much stay full throttle, and they get the runs off of the corners. You just saw the pass for the race lead. Nick Miller has just taken it apart, but now at the hands of PJ Merrill and Aiden Murray, who have been working alongside him, they're putting the pressure on, and you can see it right now where somebody takes the lead, but the outside gets the run, and then they flip-flop positions.
Well, you see those new 2 Nova Sim Racing drivers grouping up back to each other with right behind the number 9 of Nick Miller. Josh Patterson going to make an aggressive move to the bottom for the race lead, and a very impressive move to just slip right below him, catch him off guard, and he will assume the race lead. Paul Granada there to follow. Blaze McKinney 3 wide for 2nd.
Look at Blaze McKinney, the run in a turn 3 all by himself. Going to side draft, and may not be enough at the end. He'll stall out here at the entrance and the exit of the tri-oval. He'll be all by himself with White and Sartajman to pick him up coming in at turn 1, but a move by Patterson to set him back to the front to split that lap car, use the lap car as the advantage to look back to the bottom first, and then be that driver to take back the race lead. And again, all single file down the back straightaway, going to be all of them within each other going into turn 3, all single file as Miller will mire back. And now, Charlie, could be the position where everybody will be probably down here to look for pit road within the next couple laps.
I think the pit road window, the fuel window opens in the next few laps. So within the next 10 laps, we're going to see these guys reach the end of their fuel tank and come down and make that last stop to make it to the end of this race. So this race is definitely not over, and it could definitely be decided on pit road.
And watch the drivers who have been aggressive early have mired back in the rear of the field. Brody Garner sitting in 7th, or at least was sitting 8th before Eddie Murray kind of stalled up to the high side. He's going to kind of join that little group down to the bottom, or at least he's going to let everybody by for the most part. Garner was very aggressive near the front. Now he's holding back as there's more swerving up through the front of the field. That was PJ Merrill and Nick Miller kind of trading spots instead of being the inside-outside, doing the flip-flop there, going down the back straightaway to try to find some help. But then you see guys, the driver who was just in the race lead, Riley Marabello, tucked back in the field. You saw him earlier go down the back straightaway in order to let everybody by. He didn't want anything to do with the aggressivity up front, so he cooped back with his teammate Cole Williams. We haven't seen anything of Bridger Olsen here tonight. Mitch Hobbs, ever since that contact with the outside wall, he's been sort of hesitant to find his way back to the front. But as you can tell, up top, a little bit further up the road, McKinney has been trying to look in that third line with Nick Miller to put Granada down to the sucker hole.
Looks like he almost wants nothing to do with that 04 car. I'm not sure if he has the run where him and Nick Miller can clear him. But Granada will make up that spot right back on the bottom line. To the second spot is PJ Merrill, however, and we'll see if him and Parker White can hop up and flush another Nova driver right out.
We'll just have to see. Once they split those Nova drivers, that could be dangerous for guys like Patterson and Granada, who were working together just a little bit earlier in this race. So now they could be controlling both lines, but there could be a price to pay if McKinney tries sort of any move down the inside. We've seen it a couple times where they try to find some sort of space, find you lacking up top, and then split the middle, dig their nose in, and then they're already by you as you have no help to the top. Look at Bridger Olsen and Cole Williams trying to make a move to the top. You can see both of their Toyota Camrys up. Well, it looks like Bridger Olsen might be letting them by, but kind of hesitant about getting together. The Yo Media Racing teammates trying to find some sort of way up to the front of this field. And Bridger Olsen, one of the star-studded stories coming into Daytona in the first race of the season, where it didn't look like Bridger was in the best position for most of the race, but that ending segment where the cautions were coming out and the pitch strategy played into his factor led him pretty much to the main group, put him in position to be at the race lead, and then digging his way into turn 3 under Brody Garner sent him to the front of the field, and then pushing into the trial will gave him the win. And that's what you need here at Daytona. You need to position yourself in the right way. You got to put yourself in the right moments so that when you're up near the front of the field, near the end, you can push and give yourself a shot at that race lead, as the two Toyota Camrys of Nova Sim Racing in Granada and Patterson still looking forward to the rest of the field.
Well, the story that you just described there with Bridger Olsen taking the win in the season over, and that's how quickly a plate race like this can change around. A track with the size of this, where you basically never have to lift off the top, that's how quickly it can change around, and it can change the entirety of the event in just one corner, and that one corner could be enough to get you the win.
Especially if you put yourself near the right people in the right times. You can set yourself in the draft, even if you're all the way in the back of the field for the entire race. If you have everything go your way in the right amount of times, you put yourself in the right places, it doesn't matter where you were at lap number 1, lap number 20, or lap number 30. If you're there at lap 70, or in that case at Daytona, it was about 80 to 85 laps, if you put yourself there in the final stretch of the event, you can be a winner. You can take that checkered flag away, as McKinney had pretty much shuffled out the 04 of Granada. So finally, after a long awaiting moment there for McKinney to try to set him away from the Toyota Camry in the 04, he's finally found that leeway. He's got the push from Garner, and to the race lead he goes into turn 1.
Now Brody Garner and Nick Miller are grouped up once again, so we know those guys are going to work really well with each other, and it's kind of them versus the field in my opinion. And it's kind of like that kind of two-car tango, but versus the other two-car tango, the Nova Sim Racing teammates, kind of leaving everyone else to fend for themselves. Brody Garner with a nose out front. not enough to clear into turn number 3.
And you can see Garner has been working with Miller for a good chunk of this race. They too have been tight together along with Sartaj Bond, but the 49 not in position to do that right now. So at least the 55 doesn't have help from the 49 just yet, but he's been working well with the driver of that 9 machine. They've been working to the high side significantly within the good chunk of this race, but now we're going to finally see green flag pit stops get underway. We're at lap number 52, so we're already down to the 20 lap to go and under mark in this race to get to the checkered flag. Possibly could be a different strategy if Garner and Miller are looking at the top. Actually, Garner will find space to the bottom, so this could be the time where everybody will go down pit road.
He's given the signal that he is going to come down this time. Josh Patterson will follow suit, and Parker White. So it's just a matter of how aggressive these guys will take pit road. Some guys will lock it up. Here we go. Pit stops underway.
And there they go, making the hard entry, hard on the brakes. The 04 of Granada with a wild move to take away second going into pit road, as the 041 of Patterson found his way in the right spots, leaving these drivers, these 5, out of pit road. Miller, Mon, Williams, Olsen, and Marabello, all of them deciding to pit a little bit later, but everyone else going to be stuck down at pit road. We'll see how they fare when they come out.
A speeding penalty issued to the 041 of Josh Patterson. That'll keep him down there for a good bit of time, no matter... it kind of depends on how much you speed is the length of time that you receive, but he's stuck down there, and that will be quite likely the end of this race if this goes green. Next group coming down.
Here they come, the Umidi Racing teammates along with the 49 of Sartaj, and Nick Miller, door-to-door contact between the 82 and the 92 as Olsen had overshot. He had a bit of a look into the grass, as you see the Nova Sim Racing driver still down pit road, and Granada and Patterson, and a tough pill to swallow for them as practically everybody else is out of pit road, and McKinney will be looking to take over net P1, but he's all by himself, so he can be swallowed by the likes of White, the likes of Garner, and the rest of the guys behind that are stuck in this pack.
Paul Granada and Josh Patterson, just an update. They both got speeding penalties, and a little bit of a penalty update for Bridger Olsen. Unsafe pit exit, missed the cone, took it too high into turn number 1, got into the grass, and that'll give you, I believe, a 40-second penalty in the pits. So that's one of the Umidi Racing drivers out of it so far. You see Cole Williams, the other Umidi Racing driver, along with Riley Marabello, as this pack is starting to get grouped up.
And these guys are going to find themselves right at the mercy of this second group, right to the first group, because they're already packed in about 2 wide, 2 rows deep, with Garner and Hobbs going to find themselves to the top side of the racetrack. As McKinney will lead this group out, we'll see how they fare when they try to get out of the way. You see Williams already eager to get out. Mon not so eager. He's going to block them over to the front, and Mon will retake the race lead on lap number 55. So a risky move. Set him good, but not too good for Nick Miller as he gets into contact with Brody Garner. They start spinning near the rear of the track. Caution flag at lap 55. So whatever happened to Bridger Olsen and the speeding penalties issued to Patterson and Granada, it won't matter anymore. They're all going to be back together as Miller and Garner got into contact going into turn 1.
And big front-end damage to Cole Williams as well. The 2 guys that are going to be fighting for the cutoff spot are now involved in a wreck on lap number 55. Looks like it was just a bad push from the 55 of Bernie Garner.
See it right there. The touch got into McKinney, then they go sliding up the track. There's Williams, who was hard on the brakes to know where to go. Hobbs, you see him swerving to the left just in time. He had enough time to make a reaction here, as Parker White also swerved out of the way in time. PJ Merrill got out of the trouble as they were slowing down going into turn 1. That's the reason of the yellow, and that is not good for the driver of the 82 of Cole Williams, and also for Nick Miller, the 2 playoff drivers in possible trouble here. Yeah, the 82 with a whale of a hit. We're riding on board with Cole Williams.
Wrong place at the wrong time. Moral of the story tonight, and we've seen it multiple times.
So now Williams will have to try and get his repairs on his Toyota Camry, and that'll give the lead. Actually, Blaze McKinney is damaged on the right side. He might have blown his motor. McKinney with issues on lap 56. as they were slowing down for the pace car. I believe there was contact here between the 87 and the 49, and there it is. The 49 just gets pummeled on the back straightaway, and McKinney tried to swerve at the last second. Oh my goodness.
Oh boy. Oh man. Well, I think that's going to complete the championship 4 sweep of the guys who are currently above the cutoff line being involved in wrecks tonight. So every single car has damage in some way, I believe, except the number 95 of Parker White.
And take a look at this again. The 87 trying to slow down, and this is reminiscent of what we saw at Las Vegas, where Francisco Bacalhau was trying to slow down for the pace car, was not noticing that Parker White was right in front of him, and then tried to swerve at the last second, but it was oh so late at that point. And again, a similar situation here. You see him letting off the throttle, then back in it, and then he notices that the 49 is coming up very quick and then hard into the outside wall he goes. Oh, and that's not pretty for the defending champion now down pit road, and I believe everybody had found their way down at pit road as well. Parker White being one of them. He'll lead the group off as Murray will lead them off. Granada will be the one to stay out this time by. Boy, that is tough.
I'm not sure what to say at this point, to be honest with you.
That is tough for Blaze McKinney. And a lot of the other playoff drivers who were doing well tonight. Jonathan Jones, who is looking forward to having a competitive night out of this one early. Aiden Kirker, playoff driver. He doesn't have that lock-in win to keep him secure anymore. He's in 17th. Glenn Bundren involved in an incident. His engine blown. He's still stuck on pit road. He has yet to find his way out. And then you add more to the list here. McKinney now, as he's down pit road. There's Sartaj Mon getting damage fixed. He had pretty much nowhere to go. He was a passenger at that point. Brody Garner stuck down pit road as well. Not sure why. However, there he is out of pit road. So it seems though he was getting some fuel topped off on his machine. And now we'll get the 1 to green signal as Granada, who had the speeding penalty under green flag pit stops, will take the lead. Aiden Murray will follow through to second. He'll be to the outside with Parker White to third. PJ Merrill will sure to be taking over fourth. I believe, though, Josh Patterson will be there as he's the next one to the outside. As Cole Williams with his damage fixed, albeit a torn up front bumper there. Nick Miller, he's got the least of the damage, I'd say, out of most of them. There's Riley Marabello out of pit road, Bridger Olson, Sartaj Mon, Mitch Hobbs, Brody Garner, and Blaze McKinney. Currently all the cars listed right now on the track. Well, now this is pretty much everybody in the playoffs, either with damage or with some sort of situation to keep them out of this race. So now we only have 3 playoff drivers, Charlie. We have White, Miller, and Williams, but Parker's the only driver without damage. How much of a beneficiary race will this be if White is able to remain unscathed?
Well, this could easily give him the championship lead, as you know, Aiden Kirker, the points leader, got wrecked out of the race early. He's 17th on the boards right now. Blaze McKinney 13th, and Parker White all the way up in 3rd. So this is going to give him a big cushion coming in the next week if he can hold them off. We're going to restart with about 10 laps to go here.
Restarting with just over 10 laps to go will be lap 59. Pace car going to make its left to the safety of pit road. The Camry of Granada and the 72 of Murray will be back to the green flag. Garner with a voluptuous start. I'm not sure whether he will be penalized for that, but he's listed as a race leader. But nonetheless, the pack 2 by 2, a couple rows deep, going to make their way into turn 1.
It's go time. Time is now to make your moves, and the time is now to get up front. You see Cole Williams there making aggressive moves with a near torn off front bumper. It's go time for him, and he's got nothing to lose at this point. He no longer has a clean car to take care of.
And now Patterson will be the only one helping Murray to the top. We'll see if anybody else will try to scramble through him, assuming within the next 10 laps or so we'll have that. There's Garner, who had gotten that monstrous restart. He'll get swallowed by the field. He'll let everybody by. And now PJ Merrill will look to the high side, but not enough space. Almost door-to-door contact with the Bundren machine and the Mustang up top. Again, almost contact between the two, as Granada will try to fare the rest of this field, still in the lead with help from Parker White.
Black flag issued to the number 55 of Brody Garner. I'm not sure if that'll be a pit penalty, or I think it was just cleared right away by the admin of the race, Glenn Bundren, who blew his engine quite early. One of the playoff drivers who got us into some trouble. But these guys are going to wrap around to just 10 laps to go. It's going to be line versus line here, and damaged car versus undamaged.
So now we'll see. Remember, everyone non-playoff drivers apart from Parker White, Cole Williams, and Nick Miller. And Miller a little bit back through the inside lane. Cole Williams, though, even with that damage, staying strong, 4th on the inside lane to try to survive the best way he can. But the push is there for the 0-2 of Josh Patterson to look to the top. Here's PJ Merrill to join the fray. And now Patterson will look to the bottom, so it'll leave 2 back to the top. A switch off of turn 2.
I think one of the guys that I'm looking at here, sitting right in the middle of the pack, actually 2 guys, is the 92 and the 77. These guys have just a clean race car, and it's ready to take a bite into this intense battle that's going on right now. They're third and fourth on the bottom line. Parker White turned in front of the pack.
Parker White turned in front of the pack, up into Nick Miller. They're wrecking, and again, caution waves with just under 10 laps to go. Parker White now damaged, that we were talking about, the only playoff driver that was without damage. Now he's in trouble as he got into contact with Cole Williams. And this has not been a pretty race for either driver in contention for the title. Take a look at this, and in turn 3, there's Parker White leading the charge to the top. And it might have been a touch from Aiden Murray. Indeed it was. So Murray had gotten into him, wrong place at the wrong time. Got into Cole Williams as a result. So it wasn't contact between the outside and inside line, just a wrong push. Square on the nose of the Ford Mustang, and then Parker White trying to keep the car straight. Overcorrected on the outside into Nick Miller. And then Miller had nowhere to go in this as well. Miller involved. There's a push on board with the 95.
Just a bad push, unfortunately taking out yet another playoff driver. I think it's a trend tonight that a lot of the non-playoff guys are unfortunately collecting some of those playoff guys who are needing these valuable points, and it almost looks like the only cars that are left undamaged are the non-playoff guys. So it's almost like fighting in a junkyard for the playoff guys who are currently suffering from extensive damage.
And actually funny now, seeing that, well, we were under the green flag pit stops, we pretty much thought that Patterson and Granado were figuratively out of this race because they had the speeding penalties down pit road. Now with the amount of calamity we've seen here tonight, Charlie, they're the first 2 in the race lead. So now it's another dynamic to how Super Speedway Racing can change the way either one driver is, where one driver might be, or where they end up over the course of laps. And for non-playoff drivers, it's been a normal night. It's been a pretty decent night. But for the playoff drivers, it's been very ugly over Daytona. McKinney had mentioned his crash. Cole Williams now trying to get some of his damage fixed over tonight after what he collected earlier. Nick Miller now with even more damage to his Camaro. There's Brody Garner coming out of pit road. He's not a playoff driver. However, he has been in pit road the past couple of times around. There's Parker White. The worst race car out of the rest so far. And just one hit, one wrong move can send everybody into trouble. And for the playoff drivers, it's now, I think, a game of survival. If you're out on the track, I think the best case is just to try and run as many laps as you can, even if you're not in contention for a top 5, top 10, or even the race win. You just have to stay out because any lap over the other is a point gained. So for guys like Miller, for guys like White, for guys like McKinney, you have to try and muster what you can, or else the points will hurt you significantly. And that's what's happening here tonight at Daytona. So field in the hands of Paul Granada. We'll get the Wonder Green signal this time by. Pace car lights are out, so indeed we will have the green flag next time by around this 2.5-mile venue at Daytona International Speedway to kick off the round of 7. Happy that you're with us to join as we decide a Bundren Lawn Care Series champion within the next couple of weeks. But if you're looking at the field right now, there's no playoff driver in sight. It'll be Paul Granata, Josh Patterson, the 2 teammates to lead us back. Aiden Murray and PJ Merrill, 2 Ford Mustangs to round out row number 2. Riley Marabello, who was eliminated in the last round, has a shot at the win tonight. He's going to be within this field as well, within the first couple of rows. Brody Garner back in it. Bridger Olsen in the fight. Cole Williams trying to stay out the most he can. Sartaj Mon. And I believe Aiden Murray has let everybody by, so that'll let the space for Riley Marabello to cover that second line. Well, here, Charlie, we have about 2 teammates lining up the front row at a gridlock. Where do you find the best pusher here? Do you find PJ Merrill to be that guy, or do you think Marabello will be the one to easily shove Granada out to the front and give him the advantage?
Well, the answer to this question is, I think, deeply, deeply reliable on the people that are around you and the people that you know that are going to be on the racetrack racing around you. I think the Nova Sim Racing teammates who are currently taking up the 2 rows up front are going to work with each other as best as they can, and I expected to almost succeed with how well they've been working with each other this entire race. So I think, to answer your question, it's going to be a toss-up.
We'll just have to see. They're controlling both lanes, and that's the best situation for them all. Pace car down a pit road, and what could be the final restart of the evening. Green flag out in the air for lap number 65. Just a handful of laps left remaining in this race of the Bundren Lawn Care Series from Daytona. Early start for Paul Granata ahead to turn 1. Patterson enough space to duck low, and it's single file going into the banking.
And what a rebound it's been for those 2 Nova Sim Racing guys who both suffered from speeding penalties coming in too hot onto the pit road scene under those green flag pit road stops. But looks like Riley Marabello is just peeking his nose out, trying to get a run, trying to figure out the best opportunity. But those 2 guys out front, the 041 and the 04, they're set in stone. They're not moving. They're helping each other win as best as they can.
And being in that line will give them space to control any type of run to the outside, because they're able to keep themselves stable, and they'll have the run now coming within 5 laps to go here at Daytona. It is all single file between Granada all the way back to now Bridger Olsen, who looked to the outside and found his way back to the bottom in this single file line. And now this brings another question into the story, Charlie, because if your guys like Patterson, if you guys like Marabello, like Merrill, like Garner, anybody else within this line, when do you make the move? Do you just kip up to the outside later, or do you try to do it now to keep yourself in momentum for the rest of the race to the checkered flag, as now there's 4 cars separated off turn 4. Granada still with the lead.
Highest running playoff driver right now is the number 82 of Cole Williams, picking up these valuable points that we need. We described for the race how much he needs these points, ahead of Nick Miller, ahead of Aiden Kirker, ahead of Blaze McKinney, Shane DiMantova, and he's getting them right here. They're sitting right in front of his face, taking the opportunity for it. I think he's going to be a really good spot after this. Riley Marabello, you saw him peek ahead down the front straightaway. He might be able to make his move coming up, but he just needs that approval and that help from PJ Merrill.
Yeah, PJ Merrill will be the only case for him to come up to the race lead, because if he doesn't have that help, he will have nothing, and he'll get shuffled back to the rest of this field. You saw Brody Garner and Aiden Murray trying to work together. They're a little bit mired back between a couple of tents. However, they can try to build up that run and get to the front if they have guys like Marabello and Merrill, as they will look to the outside now, as they will look for second. Marabello to the side of the number 02 of Patterson. Now potential battle for the lead with 3 laps to go.
3 laps to go at Daytona, the world center of racing. It's go time. The aggressive button is pushed. And now you see the 72 car get up top. Now that's a 3-car tandem up towards the top. That's going to outnumber the bottom. And will they be able to take the lead coming into turn 3?
There is the help. Marabello to the front. Question is, will he stay up top or will he look to the bottom? They both will. Merrill will follow, and Murray will be the sole driver all by his lonesome to the top side. And Marabello to the race lead. Coming off turn 4, he'll catch 2 laps to go, and now it'll be the charge for Granada, Patterson, or anyone else to make a race move and make a race winning move rather as we come into turn 1.
It may seem like it goes by in a flash, but for Riley Marabella, it's going to be 2 long, excruciating laps to try to hold off these guys. The 04 to the top of the racetrack with help from Aiden B. Murray. He's going to have the run coming off the corner. Brody Garner to help. It's going to be line versus line down the back straightaway. Will they clear him coming to turn 3? They're 3 wide almost.
You saw Patterson trying to look through the middle, but there was no hope whatsoever, so he'll have to muster for the bottom. But Patterson making that move to the inside to try and push Merrill, to push Marabello ahead to the lead. There is contestant all through the front as the 04 of Granada will look side by side and will take the white flag. One more time around Daytona. Granada to the front of this field, swerving across the racetrack. He'll save it with help from Aiden Murray, and they'll dive into turn 1 side by side.
That bobble on the bottom is going to reset that high line with the 72 with the help from the 7. Brody Garner to help. But that number 92 has a fresh engine. He was just out in front. He got that clean air, was able to cool it off. Now he's going to have a head of steam pushing that 04 down the back straightaway for the final time. It looks like just the bottom lane is going to outnumber him here. We'll see what happens going into turn number 3. It's Paul Granada leading the way.
And what will Riley Marabello do, or Patterson, to try to take over the lead? Remember, Patterson and Granada are stuck within that sandwich off turn 4 for the final time. Granada with a head of steam. Here comes Marabello side by side coming to the line, but it's enough for Granada to take his first iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series victory from the Daytona International Speedway as Marabello tried to have the help up top, but it was just not enough. And the driver who got pulled with a speeding penalty about 20 laps to go from the end of this race rebounds and will win tonight under the lights. What a competitive finish there as Aiden Murray and the 7 of PJ Merrill had tried to make a move near the end, but it was just not enough as they were the only drivers to the outside. We'll take one more look at this as they were working off turn 4 here. Could have been the move as Marabello tried there, but the distance was just too strong between himself, Murray, and Merrill as Patterson gave the ultimate push near the end. There was contact between Garner and Murray coming to the start-finish line of the tri-oval. As here's another look at the finish. And mind you, out of all of that, Cole Williams, playoff driver, arrives 4th at the line due to that. As the 55 and his 72 got into contact that let the 82 just slip by. And the only playoff driver within the top 5 will gain significant points. The winner at Dover will have a head of steam going into Auto Club next week. As Granada will celebrate to the front straightaway. A winner here at Daytona. His first win in his Bundren Lawn Care Series career. And as you're looking at him celebrating, it'll be our time to take a look at your full race results and a full field rundown to see where every driver finished here from the first race of the round of 7 at Daytona. Paul Granada will be your winner. His first win of the Bundren Lawn Care Series comes tonight. So again, another new winner we see the face here in Season 3. Josh Patterson, teammate to help alongside. They've been inseparable ever since the middle, and now they will be the drivers up within the top 2. Riley Marabello will come home after you saw him try to make a room for the race lead off of turn 4. Not enough with the Eel Media Racing driver. Good enough for a top 3 and a last spot of the podium position. Cole Williams will come home to 4th after being the only playoff driver, even with damage, to stay in this race. So that'll be a lot of points going into the next week at Auto Club in California. Aiden Murray getting spun across the line. He'll finish in the top 5 as Garner, the driver who spun him, will finish over in the 6th spot. Bridger Olsen, defending Daytona winner, will finish here tonight in 7th, so a decent run for him nonetheless. PJ Merrill will arrive at the start-finish line in 8th. Sartaj Maan will come over to the checkered flag in 9th, and Mitch Hobbs will rebound after an early hit to the outside wall. He will be the final driver within your top 10.
Right under the top 10 on the next page, we're getting into the cars that are overwhelmingly amount of laps down. Nick Miller finishes in the 11th position, 8 laps down. Parker White, same amount of laps down, got involved in the same wreck. Blaze McKinney there as well in the 13th position after wiping out the leader under the caution flag. Brady Wheelerman 14th, Preston Cope 15th, Glenn Bundren, disappointing finish for him, 16th, Aiden Kirker, 17th to 54 in 18th, the number 4 of Jonathan T. Jones in 19th, and me.
Well, that's your full field rundown of the 19 cars that finished here from the Daytona International Speedway. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have our KBRN post-race coverage with interviews and the talk with a lot of the drivers that finished within the top 5, and we'll have our takeaways and a whole lot more going into Auto Club next week. Don't go anywhere. We've got more right here. You're watching the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series, round of 7 in the playoffs for the Daytona International Speedway, live right here on the KBueno Racing Network. Back live at the World Center of Racing, where we kick off our KBRN post-race coverage, brought to you by SDC. And a run to the finish comes right at the wire for the first race of the round of 7 in Season 3 of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series. A very weird ending to this race, considering there was only one playoff driver in the entire group to the finish, and it was Cole Williams to keep himself in to finish 4th. But the spotlight lies on the 04 of Paul Granada, who wins tonight's race and will be here down in Victory Lane. We'll take an interview with your race winner, and we'll bring him in from Victory Lane. What's exactly where he sits and how he feels about his win here at Daytona. Paul, and we bring you in from Victory Lane. I think a race that really turned on its head, if you would say, because you and Patterson were looking for those sort of positions. You guys were hard on the brakes. You guys were aggressive all night long, but then you finally step into that pit strategy. You guys get those speeding penalties, and it looks like you guys were kind of out of this race for good. But then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose practically, and you're able to walk away with a win. Walk us through what that was like near the final laps of the event.
Yeah, it was funny too, because me and him were in a disco, and I was like, yeah, just don't screw this up and speed on pit road, and we both ended up overshooting pit road and getting a speeding penalty. I was like, well, we did what we didn't want to do, and we lost the race. And all of a sudden, I was like 1.2 seconds ahead of the lead pack, and I was like, time to go a lap down. The yellow came out, and that was, we knew that was like, okay, it's time to go. It's our shot to win it.
And it easily was your shot, and it was the win here tonight at Daytona. Walk us through that whole relationship there with Josh Patterson, because I know you guys had kind of been separated for the first segment of the race. You guys are kind of hanging near the back, making sure you guys are keeping yourselves clean. But when you guys turned on the jets, you guys were not playing around. How was that working with Patterson near the end of the race, considering the fact that you guys at one point had 2 lines controlled and you guys were at the front or controlling the rest of the field?
Yeah, also strategy was hang out in the back and beat him at the end. And we knew in the Discord, we were talking about our strategy. We knew we had to push, and that final 10 laps, we were really debating on who we wanted to be in front and who we didn't. And then his temps got really high, my temps got really high, so we were weaving and deaving. And I know I got to that outside lane, and I didn't expect to win that thing. I was hoping, banking on him to get in front of me. I was going to push him, but yeah, our teamwork between me and him worked really well, and it got us to where we 1-2 finish.
Well, Paul, you certainly get the beneficiary of that, and this is your first iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series win. So, of course, I know that must feel good. But over at the shop, the people that get it done for you, who are those people? Any teams, sponsors, or anyone else who decided to give the shout-outs and love to for tonight's win here at Daytona?
I just want to thank Josh, JP Designs for making this call, Nova Sim Racing, Henry. He was riding on the back of the car today. That was pretty cool. But yeah, we just made this call earlier today, and it was looked to be a pretty nice car to get out here victory lane first race out.
Well, Paul, congratulations go out to you and, of course, your win, and we'll let you celebrate even further here from the World Center of Racing. Congratulations once again, and, of course, we look forward to seeing you for the rest of the Bundren Lawn Care Series season.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
That's Paul Granata, your winner here tonight from the Daytona International Speedway, and the teammate sitting right behind him, Josh Patterson, will follow suit to second, giving Granada the push to the checkered flag, and Patterson sitting trackside with KBRN's own Charlie Baier on pit road.
Well, a satisfying comeback in the second half of the dynamic duo, taking that 1-2 finish tonight. Josh Patterson, well, it was a chaotic race for sure, and you were able to put you and your teammates, Paul Granada, in position to go take a win. What was that like coming down in the last few laps and defending that?
Well, Paul summarized it really well. We were in the Discord. We were just constantly communicating. And after the final restart, we had a really good restart, but then we got shuffled back. So our plan was to try to maybe form an outside lane and go up to the front. But I got held up on the inside, and he had a chance to go up. I just told him, go take it. And he got up to the front. I managed to somehow get down on the bottom lane and push Riley and him to 1-2, got myself up into third. And then as soon as I got clear, I knew that Riley was going to shoot up high. I was hoping that he didn't realize that we were going to just follow each other. Shot up high off of 4, and I just go, oh, that's easy, 1-2. So I just got behind him and pushed him to the line. So I don't know, it's just really good teamwork from us all night. Really good execution. Kept ourselves out of trouble, and just, I don't know how we pull it off.
And teamwork does make the dream work, especially at these plate races. And, throughout that race, about the halfway point during the green flag pit stops, you and Josh both simultaneously got a speeding penalty. Just what was that like, and the pressure of that caution coming out right when it did and saving you guys?
Well, I tried to pass Blaze coming onto pit road. I was like, oh, I can just take the lead. Here we go. And then I locked up the brakes and I went like 20 over going in. And I was just like, okay, well, let me just speed through the rest of the pits to get, done with the penalty as quick as I could. And then Paul cues up over the radio and goes, oh, I got a speeding penalty. And I'm like, okay, we're good then. We can just hook together and be okay. Just hope for a yellow. And then we weren't really hooked up because he was just like 2 seconds behind me. I didn't want to drop back that far. And then, he was like a second in front of the field. I was like 2 or 3. And then the caution came out, and we were just both like, oh my gosh, we're saved. I don't know. We're just the luckiest people right now. And we knew from then we had a chance, and a pretty damn good one. So just played out in our favor and got it done in the end.
And from that point on, you were able to take those 1-2 spots on the leaderboard. Josh, well, it was a good race for you and Paul Granada overall, and we'll see if you can carry that momentum possibly into next week or into next season. But before we let you go, do you have any teams or anyone that you'd like to thank? Obviously, Nova and Josh, but do you have anyone else that you'd like to thank for making tonight's run possible?
Yeah. As you said, Nova, I got to thank Paul for, being the GOAT that he is and pulling that off, getting the win. Belfour Property Restoration, NTN Endurance Distributions, JP Designs, Chevy 5, Vulture Racing Engines, Toyota Racing Development, Wark, YouTube, Mr. Ocean CM3882 on YouTube, Sparco, MSI, and Realtree. I got to thank you guys for broadcasting, Bundren for running it, and everyone on track for giving me a pretty good race and a great finish.
All right, Josh, we'll see you on the flip side. Good luck, man.
Thank you.
That's Josh Patterson, second place finisher, the driver who pushed fellow teammate Paul Granada to the front, and they were connected well throughout tonight's event. and it mattered all the way to the end. But we coup back to third, and the driver who finishes at the last step of the podium, it is Eel Media Racing's Riley Marabello, the driver of the 92, and we'll join alongside him trackside. Riley, this was a race that looked very conservative from you at the beginning. I know you were working with Cole Williams to start this race off. You guys are kind of just staying out of trouble for the most part. You guys were able to get out of that trouble, and then you come over to the end of this race with a good shot at the win. What did you need there at those final laps, or at least those final turns, in order to walk away with a victory here tonight?
Well, all I really needed was some help out of 4. I saw Aiden. He was, I think, working with Merrill. I saw them 2 backing up. I thought they were going to try to do something. And I was pushing Granada because I had nothing else really to do. And I figured, what the heck, I'm going to try to make a move out of turn 4. I tried side drafting Granada, but it just wasn't enough because I didn't have help. But it's no big deal. I'm still extremely happy with 3rd place.
And certainly a very good finish for you guys and your first top 3 here tonight at Daytona. Walk us how that was, because I know that this race really much turned in a different direction from what we saw the first time we were here at Daytona to open the season, where it was pretty much a fuel strategy game. A lot of drivers were just kind of hoping to get their fuel strategies right, and that was the main focus, to get yourself to the end of this race, and that's what allowed your teammate inevitably to get the win in the first race of that season. But now going into the second turn at Daytona, and knowing how chaotic it has been, how different it has been compared to that first race, how was that for you? Because I know that they had the fuel strategy coming to the later portions of the race. There was a lot of wrecks through the beginning, and then near the end, it was just a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, so I really feel like the difference between 2 races, like you said, the first one, season opener, had to do with fuel mileage. Tonight, I really felt like it was extremely different from the first one because I felt like you just had to be more conservative. I think there were less laps. I'm not 100% sure. But you just had to be more conservative, and you had to stay in the back and wait for all the wrecks to kind of transpire. And once that got out of the way, you kind of just go like hell and try to win or, finish well.
Alrighty, certainly, nonetheless, top 3 will bring you a lot of joy, of course, here from Daytona, and a valiant finish, nonetheless, trying to get that race win going into the tri-oval. But before we let you go, Riley, is there anyone you decide to thank, any team sponsors or anyone else who decide to give the love and shout-outs to for tonight's effort?
Yeah, so first of all, I'd really like to thank Michigan Diecast for coming back on board the 92 car. I really appreciate him being able to sponsor me for 3 races this season. I've already done 2. We got 1 more left. Go follow at Michigan Diecast on Instagram for a bunch of NASCAR Diecast content and other NASCAR-related things. I would also like to thank Eel Media Racing for giving me great teammates to work with, especially Cole Williams, Bridger Olson, and Francisco up in the spotter stand, helping us out throughout the race. Yeah.
All right, Riley. Well, our congratulations go out to you for your 3rd place finish here tonight, and we thank you for taking the time to join us. Congratulations once again. Of course, we look forward to seeing you over at Auto Club Bristol and Homestead within the next couple of weeks.
All right, thank you.
That is Riley Marabello, 3rd place finisher, coming live at the checkered flag from the Daytona International Speedway. We've got 2 drivers left to interview, and the next driver left, the driver who finished in 4th, another Eel Media Racing driver, and the only playoff driver to survive on the racetrack with the top 5, Cole Williams, as he's sitting trackside with Charlie Baier.
And it's been a story of clawing your way up, through those points and getting as much points as you possibly can. Well, Cole Williams, you were the highest finishing playoff driver in this race and putting yourself in the final spot in the championship for obviously 2 more races left to go in this round, but has to be pretty comfortable now being in that spot. Now all you have to do is defend it.
Yeah, man, it was definitely a wild one. We did our good old strategy, just chilling at the back and just relaxing. I mean, there wasn't even that many people that showed up. I think 19 cars started the race, and by lap, like lap 10 or something already, I'm looking 3 of them, 4 of them were already out. So 2 of those being playoff drivers, 2 of those being playoff drivers. So that was a big, that was a big help. And that was just survival. We were just relaxing on the bottom, trapping the bottom, surviving. We had our pit stop, went pretty well. Got a little contact rally, nothing much, just like 1.5 optional. We were good. And then just, I guess, someone got turned in front of me, and I was ready to tuck in behind Mitch or clear in front of Mitch as a lap car. I guess he was just trying to stay there. And they just spun right in front of me. I jammed on the brake. I hit him at like 15 miles per hour faster, and that was like, I think, 20 seconds optional, which doesn't sound that bad, but it was still pretty destroyed. The problem was just the cooling. The engine wouldn't cool properly, but we were still up there in the mix. And then just a non-chaser. I expected to be, causing problems, and just the usual hazard, just hooked Barker right there, right into my right front. That solidified some more front end damage, and then a little bit of right rear spoiler. And that actually was more optional, but that was mainly just to repair right rear, a little bit of the right front hood. But other than that, we were looking good. We never left 2,000 RPM idle, so that was good. And then from there, we were just trying to manage the temps, because if you're in second in the line, you're obviously going to be you're usually the one running hot on temps. I was back there in sixth in line. I was running temps, and they were shooting up like I was the second car in line. So I went all the way up to 286 at one point, which is definitely the danger zone. It started going red. And I just basically had Bridger behind me. I told him I need to drop back a lot. So we dropped back like 3/10. Got back down. I basically wanted to get it to about 260 for the last lap. We did that, and then we just pushed. We never really got that wreck. We got those two cars a wreck in the travel, passed them both. So that's, extra points. We're never really able to stay out, lead a lap. The 0x bonus got taken away with those extra X's. That we were definitely gonna have that until the incidents. But we put our car in the right position today. Nothing really you can do about the travel wreck, and then just nothing really you can do when just random guys are showing up for the plate tracks and turning people. So obviously that ended another two playoff drivers races. So I think I'm looking at this right now. I'm seeing, what is that, one playoff driver on the lead lap finishing. That's kind of crazy. But I mean, I guess I'll take it. Entering 10 points below the cutoff, that's like almost and sometimes with the fields we get are sometimes insurmountable. So we were lucky to gain some points, and let's see what we can do at my home track auto club.
Yeah, and you mentioned you're looking forward to next week, and the next two races are just going to be defend, trying to keep your playoff position that you clawed so much for. So what is going to be the strategy coming into another two wildcard races of Auto Club and Bristol?
It's just going to be putting your car in the right position. You got to get in the right lane. Basically, sadly, another Shingle Group track here on the iRacing platform on V7. The dirty air kicks in quickly. We were on 60% fuel here, so the car setup is not perfect. Those setups are built for 100% in official racing. And we're running, less fuel, so obviously the car is just going to be tighter. It's going to be using more right front. They're going to be faster, so hopefully we can, hopefully tire saving will come in as much as possible. I'm hoping that's a day race, so we can be slipping and sliding, try to just gain time when we save tires, fight through the dirty air. Hopefully the guys leave us as much clean air as possible. It's definitely going to be a pack race to start, how the Cup cars were, but the strat basically go in there and execute on the pit green flag stops. I don't really know that many people are going to show up in the first place. Obviously we got 19 to start. At Daytona, we were expecting a lot more. Obviously, there's a league that overscheduled us today that had a good bit of the iRacing Bundren series drivers that chose to do that. So I think that helped a little with the car count. We still obviously were wrecking a lot, so I mean, it doesn't really matter. But I just think we gotta save the tires. Of course, it's one of the oldest surfaces on the in NASCAR period. So we just got to take care of the tires, and then from there, we got to execute the pit stops. I would expect we get some pit stops next week. At least I would hope so, with probably around the 15 or 20 that will show up. And then from there, we just got to beat the playoff drivers. Parker and those guys are gonna be tough to beat, Blaze, and all those guys. So we'll have to see what we can do. I know there's gonna be a couple guys that go into that week, and they're gonna be basically an insurmountable amount to gain back in two races. Basically, this entire round is almost wild card. I mean, we got a plate track, we got a 2 mile track in the A car, so 2 mile track being basically a pack race to start, and then we got Bristol, kind of dreading that unless we can go green, but we just need to survive, and then from there, just take care of the tires, execute the pit stops. We'll be there at the end.
We're looking forward to seeing you defend. But until then, until we see you next week, do you have any team sponsors, anyone that you'd like to thank for making tonight's run possible?
First off, just want to thank you guys, KBRN, for putting on the broadcast, another awesome broadcast. I want to thank you, Media Racing, of course, and all those guys back there. Thanks to Riley and Bridger helping help me out in this entire race. Obviously, Bridger for basically staying behind me. I know he was trying to make sure that he didn't blink or whatever, so that he didn't want to get up there in the mix and start blinking or whatever. So thanks to him for pushing and helping towards the end of that race. Shout out to Riley, obviously, with the P3. Almost got the win there. Unfortunately, can't get that. Couldn't get that done, but thanks to Pellet Gaming, Z's Custom Diecast, of course, Stealth Energy for coming on this beautiful Shane D. Manitoba Designs Toyota Camry. So yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you then, Cole Williams. Best of luck to you, and good luck, man.
Thank you, man.
That's Cole Williams out of the booth, and we mentioned that he's worked so hard and clawed for every single point that he needed to get above the cut line, and he put himself in that position tonight. A really good look for him coming in those last 2 races of the round.
Well, that concludes our KBRN post-race coverage brought to you by SDC, and those were all the interviews with the drivers about the top 4 to 5. We did not get Aiden Murray, unfortunately, down to the pit road, but he was your 5th place finisher. Charlie, we look forward to the rest of the playoffs, and now we look just to 2 more races, and you'll look at it right in the center of your screen. Now we've already got Daytona left under wraps with a very big difference in the point standing, considering Cole Williams will have a good shot now to run into the championship 4. Now we move into 2 wildcard tracks, but tracks that we are familiar with. We saw it last season at Auto Club and Bristol in the same exact places they were last season. What is going to be needed here now if you're those playoff drivers? What's going to be the key to master the super speedway at Auto Club and then put yourself in good position at the short track at Bristol in order to find yourself at Homestead with a shot at the title?
Well, I think Cole Williams described his strategy perfectly, and the strategy of a lot of the other guys are just going to keep the car clean. And you mentioned those are 2 wild card races. Auto Club being such draft dependent, even a little damage there will alter the speed of your car throughout the rest of the race. That's not what you want to see. And Bristol, a race of survival. We know how chaotic Bristol is in any form. So it's just going to be a matter of keeping your car clean and staying there towards the end and getting a lot of those points that you need. So, I mean, despite having a little bit of a buffer, people like Aiden Kirker, Blaze McGee having that bumper, if this keeps happening to them, they're just going to inch closer and closer to the cutoff line.
And it's going to be key to see which drivers keep themselves above the playoff cutoff. Remember, it's just the 4 that advance to Homestead Miami Speedway to run for a title. But that'll do it here for the World Center of Racing and the virtual Daytona International Speedway. So for everybody who makes this Bundren Lawn Care Series possible, for Glenn Bundren, owner himself, and all the officials for making sure the racing and the sessions are set up correctly so we can go racing each and every Monday night. And from all of us here at the KBueno Racing Network, for Francisco Bacallao and Charlie Baier alongside me in the booth, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Congratulations to Paul Granada, his first career Bundren Lawn Care Series victory, as he will take himself to Auto Club next week, and we continue to find out who will get into the Championship 4. We'll see you then, but for now, good night from Daytona.